Hey, this is The Social Tea, and I'm Sharonda Lee. I talk about all things social, including celebrity news, reality shows, what's going on in pop culture, local news, and more here in these YouTube streets. Now, we know folks always get in their feelings about what's said here on social media, so I must say, what's stated here is alleged, my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. Make sure you visit my website at www.thesocialteatalkmedia.com and also follow me on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, also known as X, and TikTok. Also, check out my podcast, The Social Tea Off the Air, on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Now, y'all, I stay on ready, so make sure you subscribe to my backup channel. I am Sharonda Lee, The Social Tea, here on YouTube. Now, before we get into it, make sure you hit that notification bell, like, share this with everyone you know, and subscribe. Now, with all that being said, relax, get comfortable, and let's get into the tea. What we know about the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore. Federal investigators are searching for answers about how a massive cargo ship struck a major bridge minutes before leaving the port of Baltimore early Tuesday. Federal investigators are examining data records and interviewing key witnesses as they try to figure out how a giant container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore early Tuesday. The bridge, a part of Interstate 695, a critical transportation link on the eastern seaboard to one of the largest ports in the country, collapsed, and vessel traffic has since been stopped. 7 construction workers and an inspector were on the bridge when it collapsed. 2 people were pulled alive from the water shortly after the bridge collapsed. Divers on Wednesday found a red pickup truck about 25 feet below the water's surface and found 2 victims inside, officials said. The other 4 remain missing and are presumed dead. Governor Westmore and the FBI said there is no credible evidence of a terrorist attack. Here's what we know. Why did the ship hit the bridge? It is not yet clear, and investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board boarded the ship on Tuesday night to gather documentation. They obtained data from the voyage data recorder, which is essentially the black box that has been sent to a lab to help the authorities develop a timeline of events that led up to the crash. The 985-foot-long cargo vessel called the Denali was leaving the port of Baltimore when it had a complete blackout that knocked out the power to the engine and the navigation equipment, an industry official said. The ship issued a mayday call just before hitting the critical component of the bridge known as the pier. Radio traffic from the emergency workers suggested that the crew was struggling to steer the ship, according to the audio published by the Broadcastify. It was traveling at about 9 miles per hour, officials said, which is typical in that zone. Audio from the Maryland Transportation Authority Police Channel showed that the mayday call had allowed officers a few precious minutes to close the bridge to traffic. The effort to rapidly shut down traffic probably prevented more cars from being on the bridge during the collapse and saved lives, officials said. Baltimore Harbor pilots were directing the ship at the time of the crash, as is customary when vessels enter ports or canals, according to a joint statement from the ship's owner and managers. 2 tugboats helped the ship steer out of the terminal, but then returned to the port for their next ship assignment, port officials said. Governor Westmore said the bridge was fully up to code and that the collapse did not appear to be the result of a structural issue. What is the death toll? Coast Guard and state police officials said the construction workers who were working as contractors doing overnight maintenance on the bridge had been missing too long to hope for a rescue, and cited cold water temperatures. The two were found on Wednesday were identified as Alessandro Hernandez Fuentes, 35, of Baltimore, and Dorlin Ronald Castillo Calabra, 26, of Dundalk, Maryland. Mr. Fuentes was from Mexico and Mr. Calabra was from Guatemala. Divers can no longer reach the area where they believe more vehicles and victims remain. So officials have ended the search and are moving to clean up operations, removing debris removing debris. Once that is complete, the vehicles are accessible. Diver will return for the search of the bodies, police said. One of the workers still missing is an Honduran citizen, minor Azello Sandoval, in his 30s, who had been living in the United States for nearly 2 decades, according to the Honduras Immigrant Protection Service, a nonprofit organization that provides services to immigrant community in Baltimore, identified another missing co-worker as Miguel Lina, the father of 3 from El Salvador in his 40s. What about the ship and its crew? The Denali is registered in Singapore and was headed for Colombo, Sri Lanka, according to the Marine Traffic and Airtime Data Platform. It was carrying 4,700 shipping containers, according to Synergy Marine, its manager and operator, but the ship can handle about twice as many, according to the company. The ship, which remains in the narrow ship line lane, has 1.5 million gallons of fuel and lubricant of oil on board, said Vance Am. Peter Gunter, the deputy commandant of the operations of the Coast Guard, adding that 56 of the 4,700 containers still on the ship contain hazardous materials. There is no threat to the public from the hazardous materials on board, he said. An inspection of the ship last year at a port in Chile reported that the vessel had a deficiency related to gauges and thermometers. The Denai has had 27 inspections since 2015, according to a database maintained by Equitas, a public site that promotes maritime safety. The only other deficiency, a damaged hull impairing seaworthiness, was found in 2016 at a port of Antwerp. The vessel hit a stone wall at the port that year. A spokesperson for the Denali's owner, Grace Ocean Investment, declined to comment on the deficiency turned up last year. The ship's 24 crew members, including the 2 Baltimore port pilots, who were directing the vessel at the time of the crash, were accounted for, and there are no injuries among those on the ship, the owner said. On board were 22 Indian citizens. What about the bridge? Construction of the bridge started in 1972 and was completed in March 1977. The bridge spanned 1.6 miles over the Patapsco River, but the crossing's overhaul structure, included its connecting approaches, was almost 11 miles long. It carried about 35 million vessels annually. The collapse might have been avoided, some engineers said, if the pylons holding up the bridge had better protected with blocking devices called fenders. Those can be anything from rocks piled around the pylons to large concrete rings padded with slats of wood. But the protection would have had to be able to absorb and hit from such a big container vessel. The U.S. Secretary of Transportation said on Wednesday that the structure was simply not made to withstand a direct impact from a modern cargo vessel. He noted that ships frequenting the port today are orders of magnitude bigger than ships in use when the bridge was built. It's difficult to overstate the impact of this collision. Nothing that the Denali was not as big as a building. It's really as big as a block, 100,000 tons all going into this pier all at once. President Biden said he expected that the federal government would pay for the entire cost of the rebuilding of the bridge, and he called Congress to support the efforts to fund the repairs.
Yes, sir. Already starting to arrive over here at the FDA headquarters. R62 is around your location now. He just arrived. You can liaison with him. There's a ship approaching. It just lost their steering. So until you get that under control, we got to stop all traffic.
F4L, I'm en route to the south side.
This is supposed to start.
I'm holding traffic now. I was dragging, but we stopped prior to the bridge, so I'll have all outer loop traffic stopped.
10-4, is there a crew working on the bridge right now?
291 to do that.
Good.
Want me to stop traffic on this site right now?
Yeah, if we can stop traffic, just make sure no one's on the bridge right now. I'm not sure where, if there's a crew up there. You might want to notify whoever the foreman is, see if we can get them off the bridge temporarily.
10-4, once the other unit gets here, I'll ride up on the bridge. I have all interloop traffic stopped at this time. Once you get here, I'll go grab the workers on the key bridge and then stop the outer loop.
C-13 dispatch, the whole bridge just fell down. Start whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
10-4 dispatch is direct.
That's correct. This time.
Do we know if all traffic was stopped?
I can't get to the other side, so the bridge is down. We're going to have to get somebody on the other side, the Anne Arundel County MSP, to get up here and stop traffic coming northbound on the T bridge.
C-13, I'm holding all.
There's a ship.